Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is swipe. Let's take a moment to look at some of the definitions or the ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear the verb swipe used is to mean to hit or try to hit with a swinging blow. So I know my picture here isn't all that large, but I want you to imagine someone kind of having their arm out and coming around and trying to hit, right? So this is a little different, we would say, than like a punch, right? Where it's more direct. So this kind of swinging, sometimes this is described as a sweeping motion, that might be used to describe this particular action, swipe. Now, a second way you are likely to hear the verb swipe used is to mean to pass a card through an electronic device designed to read and process the information. Perhaps this has happened to you. You've been at a grocery store, a supermarket, some other store, and you go to pay for something, right? Maybe they ask you cash or card, cash or credit, right? And they might tell you, okay, you can swipe your card, right? So kind of that action of taking a credit card, a debit card, and processing it. Now, this is not just specific to payment, though. At many gyms, you might have a card that you need to swipe in order to enter. And so that card has information stored on it indicating perhaps you are a member of the gym. A third way you might hear the verb swipe used is to mean to steal. So someone might say something like, someone swiped my bike. Just another way instead of saying stole. You should know that swipe is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, I'm going to drop the E and add ing to form swiping. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by just adding the letter D, since this verb already ends in an E. Now, our base verb, swipe, ends with an unvoiced P sound. And this means that our ed ending is going to make a T sound. So it should sound like this: swiped, swiped. Okay. Now, today we're going to talk about some phrasal verbs and some phrases that I think you might be hearing or seeing more of in our current time. So let's start with the phrasal verb to swipe at. This can have a couple different meanings. We're going to talk about two today. The first is to try to hit someone or something, again, with that kind of wide arcing stroke. An example of this might be, he swiped at the security guard when he wasn't allowed to enter. This sentence is an example of the simple past tense, right? And again, kind of that idea, he tried to hit him. I would say swipe is used quite often when there's an attempt, but not necessarily a completion. So I would think here the person was not successful in striking or making contact with the security guard. Now, a second way swipe at gets used is to mean to attack someone, but this time you're doing it verbally. You're doing it with your words, or you could just be criticizing them very harshly. An example of this might be, the candidates swiped at each other throughout the debate. Right? So here maybe we have some name calling, again, really personal attacks, perhaps. All of that would be implied. Again, using their words, nothing physical there. Now, another phrasal verb that I think is far more common to hear now is swipe up. And this gets used in connection to phones, smartwatches, tablets, really anything with a touch screen that we can use. So when someone tells you to swipe up, right, they're asking you to place your finger on the screen and drag it upward quickly, kind of that motion. So an example of this might be, to go back to the app you were using, swipe up from the bottom of the screen, pause, and then release. So this would be an example of an imperative sentence. I know as we learn to use new apps, new phones, I have many times kind of looked for instructions on how to get something to work a particular way. And I've seen this exact imperative used describing. And of course, there's the opposite of swiping up, that's swiping down. So now you're placing your finger on the screen and you're dragging it in a downward direction rather quickly. Another example sentence might be, swipe down anywhere on the home screen and the notification shared will slide down. Okay? So again, probably I looked at some different types of phones. This might not work on yours if you're kind of wondering like, oh, can I try that? I don't know what kind of phone you have. And I think this was very specific to a newer model, but some will work in that way. That's another imperative as well. So again, really common to see these imperatives giving us directions or instructions on how to utilize certain apps or functions on our phones, watches, and iPads. Now, I want to spend a moment to talk about a couple phrases. Now, some people might look at this and think, these look like phrasal verbs, and they do have that sort of appearance. But left and right are not particles, so technically these aren't phrasal verbs, they're just phrases, but something, again, we hear a lot in connection to our technology. So we're going to talk about swipe left and swipe right. So generally, these terms came from a popular dating app many years ago, and the function or the use of it has now been more broadly applied to a wide range of different apps. So if you swipe left, you are declining or rejecting someone or something in an app. So I'm going to continue using kind of the dating context. My example sentence here, it says, let's look at your first match. I don't think you have anything in common. Swipe left, right? So maybe if you've used it, you've had friends kind of review with you who might be a good fit for you. Now, the opposite of swiping left is swiping right. So here you're showing interest in or approval of someone or something in an app. So now, perhaps I'm with my friend again, giving advice as they look for a potential date, right? You see someone that goes, oh, ooh, that's it. That's the person for my friend. I would say to my friend, you should swipe right immediately. And so here I'm giving advice. I'm using the modal should with that phrase. Now let's spend a moment to look at some other words related to our verb swipe. And the first word we're going to look at today is just the noun form of this word. The noun swipe has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation. So the noun swipe could connect back to our first definition, right, when we were talking about kind of that arcing attempt to hit or connection, hitting something. So you might hear it called a sweeping blow. So an example of this might be, on my third swipe, I finally hit the ball. This would be true of me and the sport of golf. I'm not very good at it, so I might need to kind of take those swings a few times before I finally connect. Now, a second way the noun swipe gets used is to refer to a verbal attack or some type of criticism. An example of this might be, she's been taking swipes at her critics all week. Right? So someone criticized her. Now this person is attacking or criticizing back. A third way to use the noun swipe is to refer to an act or instance of moving our screens across some type of touch screen, right? So we just did up, down, left, and right, right? So that same idea here. An example of that. Was that a swipe to the right or left, right? Maybe someone's giving you directions, you didn't really understand, but I can tell swipe is being used as a noun in this sentence because I see the article a before it. One more word for us to talk about today, and we've already kind of touched on this, but a swipe card is really any type of plastic card that has some kind of magnetic strip where information has been encoded, and that information can be read or processed when it's put through an electric card reading device. So many people are headed to college or headed back to college or university here in the next couple of weeks. Many students at large campuses have swipe cards. You might need to swipe, or now sometimes we just have touchpads, right, where you can touch the card to give you access. And that was my example here. Your swipe card can get you access to all campus buildings. So maybe to the dining hall, to the recreation center, to the library, etc., etc. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.